John Worthen arrives in 1984. In his 16 years, quite a few changes will take place. He's quoted as saying that these 16 years have been the best of his career in higher education. This is the last time I'm going to get to do this, so for those of you who have attended Omega dinners for the last several years, please forgive me, but we're going to do it one more time.
Ball State, at the time John Worthen was a candidate for the presidency, was a quite troubled institution. It had gone through several presidents. The actual number of people who came to campus consisted of 2. John Worthen was one of the 2.
He was a person with a lot of ideas, and he had a very easy smile. He seemed like the kind of person that would be fun to work with.
I said, this is going to be a good man. He's a good listener, and he's interested in other people.
Just meeting him or seeing his picture or watching him on TV or something, it just seemed to me he was born to be mild.
He's well-educated, competent.
He seemed like a very calm kind of person.
But he's also very pleasant to be with, and he's a very caring individual.
Indeed, that turned out to be so true.
I think his strongest assets were his ability to lead, his ability to have a vision and then implement that vision.
He has the capacity to take complex ideas and express them very succinctly.
Probably his strongest asset was that he had already been a president for a number of years, so that he had had the broad range of experience that only a president can have. And that's probably his major strength.
Not just one thing so much as an attitude at the university. What he brought to Ball State was stability.
I think John Worthen's biggest contribution has been stability. He's been here 16 years, and it's been a pretty smooth sailing boat.
We had been through 5 presidents in about 15 years. In fact, I suggested once that Ball State's flag should be a revolving door.
I first heard of Rich Burkhardt when I appointed an administrator from Ball State named Norm Norton as provost at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. And we worked together for about 2.5 years. And during that time, as difficult decisions and issues would arise, Norm Norton would often say, Burkhardt and I did it this way. Or, this is the way Burkhardt would do it. And I kept thinking, who is this guy, Burkhardt?
That he likes peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and a glass of milk for lunch. Maybe they don't know that, but if he comes home and nobody's around, he comes in and has peanut butter and jelly sandwich, an apple, and a glass of milk, and a 10-minute nap.
That must be how he gets his energy throughout the day.
Doesn't sound like the John Worthen that I know, no.
I never knew that.
So peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or peanut butter sandwiches, jelly, I don't know. Glass of milk, a nap, sure, that sounds like him.
He would like peanut butter and jelly sandwich and a glass of milk and an apple and a 10-minute nap.
John can now take his nap from 10 minutes to 30 minutes, but he's got to be out of the house by 1, according to Sandra.
After we'd get done with Rotary, John would drive back and go into the Circle Drive in the parking lot next to the administration building, and he would drop me off. And he'd say, well, okay, I'll see you later. And I always wondered, all these years, what the heck is he doing?
If I had to describe President Worthen in one or two words, I would say that he has been an outstanding president.
I would say that the words that come to mind first are integrity and concern and compassion.
John Worthen is a builder of leaders.
Thoughtful.
Stable and very enjoyable personality.
Kind, compassionate, interested in people.
Practical, visionary, and down to earth.
Tolerant of lots of opinions and different viewpoints.
Deceptively effective.
I think he's consistent, and he's predictable and dependable.
Compassionate. He's a loyal friend.
Because just to look at a mild-mannered guy, you wouldn't think he could do it, but he did. Deceptively effective.
Frank, it's my pleasure to present formally the Edmund F. Ball Building to the trustees of Ball State University. This building is now completed as a result of the combined efforts of the architect, contractors, and university administration. It is entrusted to the Board of Trustees for its care and maintenance to be used to assist the university in carrying out its mission.
People may focus on the mufflers and the cold weather and think, well, gee, he's not too sensitive to students' needs.
Well, the decision that was most controversial and that I thought he may have messed up on was the time when we had sub-freezing weather and he decided to keep school open. And as a student government leader, I had more calls from parents and students about that issue than anything else.
Your snow policy sucked. I'm sorry. I had to walk to school some days when it was 15 below zero. There was snow all over the place. I understand you were in Florida, or was it skiing in Colorado? You told us to put on another muffler if we were too cold. Sir, do you have no humanity?
Looking back on it, it looks pretty funny now, but at the time there was a lot of controversy because of health concerns for students and the like.
Well, let me quickly mention his wife. I think they're a great team and a wonderful couple, and it is that all-encompassing concern and compassion that they have for people, their people folk.
Everything she does is done with elegance and with grace, with great intelligence and attention to detail. One should never tell her that something can't be done. She can get it done. Those words are the wrong thing to say to her, and she has proved over and over that things can be done and that they can be done right.
After we had graduated from Ball State and I had left Muncie for about 4 or 5 years, when we returned to Muncie and we had our first child, Sandra Worthen was one of the first people to come to our door and bring us a gift and make sure the new baby was doing well, and we hadn't seen them in several years. And that just showed me that the Worthens had more of a commitment than just the university students. It was a lifelong commitment.
You know, Sandra Worthen has been an ideal hostess for the university. Not many people know the number of hours she puts into planning and managing events that take place throughout the year. She'll really be missed, there's no question about it. She's made a major contribution.
this now?
Yes, I am.
You're running. We're on camera. Those 4 little red lights means we're on.
That's what it means.
It was an exciting day in Ball State athletics on May 17th. That's when Tim Buckley was named the 16th head coach of the men's program here at Ball State. But Coach Buckley, congratulations. But we hear there's another candidate who thought that maybe he should have been the head coach of the Ball State Cardinals, but his coaching abilities really weren't to the level of yours.
From what I understood, he had the possibility of being a very viable candidate, and that was President John Worthen. And the reason I say viable candidate is a lot of people don't know this, but when we had some of our most significant wins here at Ball State when I was coaching here, he would come into my office and do a lot of the Xing and Oing for us in our scouting reports, and by the time he'd leave my office, he'd have chalk all over his jacket and his hands, and he'd really do it up on the board, and we were able to take those game plans and put them to good use.
We joke and kid a lot about his knowledge of athletics, and we talk about his abilities to coach and do those kinds of things and officiate from the stands. And I would tell you that I'm not sure many people know that Dr. Worthen really considered applying for the basketball position here. And you know, he talks about the fact that he did coach basketball, which is certainly one of the requirements. He talked about the fact that he was undefeated as a basketball coach, which, you know, to me is very impressive.
John had this great period of success earlier in his life when he was a graduate student at Columbia, where he was a coach at one of the fine prep schools in New York City, the collegiate school. And in addition, when he was an undergraduate, I believe, at Northwestern in intramural teams and things like that. And so we would often kid each other about, gee, when the basketball job is open at Ball State, certainly the 2 most logical candidates for this opening would be either President Worthen or Provost Vanderhill.
But you know, when you get right down to it, 6th grade is not really where it's at.
One of the things that John loves to do is to check the doors on buildings. And so if I had a few dollars for every time John would call me on a Monday morning following his sojourns around campus and say to me, you know, Provost Vanderhill, you really ought to check with some of these science guys and find out why the doors of the science building are open, or you really ought to check with the people in the art department.
I've never seen it, but I guess he's prone to pick up loose trash. He also likes to check the doors, and particularly Cooper Science.
I think that John is concerned about who will clean up the campus after he is no longer here most every day to do it.
But I usually found that to be kind of an interesting pet peeve, if you will, for John to be the official checker of the doors, as well as one who likes to spend a lot of time walking around the main campus picking up trash. So I thought that's another thing, and I'd be out jogging around the campus and I'd see John and sometimes Sandra and the dog in the distance, and John be bending over picking up a beer bottle or a Coke can or something like that. I thought, well, I guess that's not really part of the president's job description, but gee, if you feel like you want to do those things, you probably ought to go ahead and do them.
It's our expectation that he is going to continue his daily job of picking up the trash and managing the campus security, making sure the doors are locked, just as he and Ty have done for many years as they go out and exercise. I think his emphasis and focus on the use of technology in teaching and our improvement in that area will be one of the legacies that will be very important.
I think he would like to feel that he left a legacy of a university as a place of learning that cares about students, where the professors are really committed to the education of the students, and where people work together in a very cooperative way.
You're asking me to predict the future. Historians have enough trouble predicting the past.
I think it'll be that Ball State University is a player on the national landscape of higher education, much more than we would have dreamed 16 years ago. and more than we are now.
He saw before most presidents saw the changes that were going to take place in society and in the university, and certainly he was in the lead when it came to technology on campus.
I think people will look back on John's presidency as one of really solid leadership in getting Ball State back on a solid foundation and carving out what I think is the absolutely most appropriate niche for Ball State University when you think of it compared to the other public and private institutions within the state of Indiana, and I think really in the Midwest.
It is most important, therefore, that we take advantage of this opportunity of the 50th anniversary of Beneficence Memorial to honor this family and their commitment to this community and to this university. All too often, families who have acquired the means to become philanthropic become interested in supporting projects and activities in distant cities and states. This has not been the case with the Ball family.
I did encourage John to retire because I was so looking forward to our having more time together, time that didn't have to be so carefully scheduled.
I would say that he should continue to do for others as he's done all of his life, and that he ought to rejoice that some of the repetitive and more taxing tasks like appearing before the Higher Education Commission and the legislature are no longer part of his calendar.
Everyone tells them they're even busier after retirement than during retirement. I hope that he chooses to do what he wants to do rather than what he should do.
I thought Sandra did a lot in community service before John Worthen retired. Now she's really going to have to do a lot of community service to get out of the house because he's going to be in the house the whole time.
I've always tried to never give Sandra advice. I'd get you in trouble.
Enjoy the time together and knowing that there's not a thing in the world you have to do, as opposed to this role where there's a ton of things they have to do all the time.
Except for Thursday nights. Thursday nights where you have to be in Muncie to play poker. John and Sandra go like the wind and experience your retirement everywhere.
John plans to play a lot more golf, and my advice to him is to lead with your legs, never overhit the ball, and you'll keep it down the middle.
My wife would perhaps share with Sandra the admonition that she gave to me when I retired a year ago, and that was, you can do anything you want, but don't come home for lunch.
I don't know how he's going to do it. He's so busy. It seems like he's busy 16, 17 hours a day now. I would suspect that he'll attack retirement the same way he's attacked this job.
John's retirement is so richly deserved and offers, as we all recognize, the potential to give so much more in a life that has already been so fruitful and so example-setting to so many people. He'll have a great retirement.
I'm really looking forward to this more relaxed and more casual time in our lives with a little more flexibility and a little more privacy.
John, I think the first time I ever introduced you at a meeting, I used the reference to Konrad Adenauer's statement to the effect that all men live under the same sky, but all men don't have the same horizon. Your horizon has brought Ball State above and beyond, and your horizon for your retirement is a rising sun and not a setting sun. Good luck. You brought so much enrichment to others. Now go get it for yourself.